Welcome to another episode. What are you reading? What are you writing? A weekly video podcast features creatives, writers, and readers, and we come together to talk about books. I am your host, Karen E. Osborne, author of 4 novels and counting. I am so glad you're here. I think you're going to enjoy our next guest. So today you're going to meet Natalie Zellat Dyen. Zellat. Zellat?
That is it.
Yes, Dyen. Hey, Natalie.
Hi, Karen. It is so nice to be here. I'm delighted.
Oh, I'm so glad to have you. So Natalie is celebrating her book baby's first birthday this month. This is her book baby's birthday month. She's an award-winning author. She began by writing humor pieces and essays for newspapers while you were working as a technical writer, right? That's a big switch. And since turning to fiction, her short stories and poetry have been published in many, many literary journals. And her debut novel, she had to move from short stories to a novel, is called Locked in Silence. And this is its first anniversary month. So we're so glad. So tell us, that's a good place for us to start this conversation. Tell us what that switch was from technical writer to short story writer. Do you know what? It's time for me to write a novel. What was that journey like?
It was all quite surprising, actually. So before I retired, I basically wrote factual things. Worked for computer companies and wrote about how to operate computers back in the days when you actually needed documentation to do it. I did write some humor. That was a little part of my voice, little essays, but it was mostly facts. And then I happened to take a creative writing course when I retired. And to my amazement, it changed my life. I learned that I was good at making things up. And
Mm.
I just thought, wow, who knew? And so I began writing short stories. And actually, when I think about it, I got my first story published around the time I started collecting Social Security. So I am a late bloomer. And
Me too.
that's what I like to call myself.
Me too.
So right, exactly. You said you had started late. Um, so I got a bunch of stories published. It was nice, just all genres, and I was happily going about my business. I did not think I had a novel in me because my my form of expression, what came easiest was short stories. I didn't think I had a novel in me. But then one day I was listening to a program about Eastern State Penitentiary. And for those of you who are not from Philadelphia or have not been here, I certainly welcome you to come and I will show you this institution because it's an incredible place. When it opened, excuse me, in 1829 is when it opened, and it was based on the Quaker principle that the only way that you could redeem yourself as a prisoner was to be isolated and in solitude so that you could reflect on your crime, you could repent
Mm.
and reveal God's inner light, which we each carry with us, which sounds very noble, but in reality was a terrible thing, the
Yeah.
isolation. And by the way, the building, um, which was in operation until 1971, of course, it changed a bit. And since that, it was neglected. And since that time, incredible award-winning restoration has been done. It's a penitentiary. It was considered the first penitentiary. So it's mammoth. And they've done an incredible job, and everybody visits. Everybody in Philadelphia, I was shocked to see how many. And I had visited there. And so when I heard this, I was reminded of that place. And I immediately knew that I wanted to put a woman in one of those cells. I wanted to get inside her head as, everything kind of ate away at her sanity. And I also wanted her not to know whether she committed the crime or not. And
Oh,
so just to see what the process would be. And so my first novel, Locked in Silence, was published the year that I turned 80. And so I am
goodness, you can't be 80.
late bloomer. Yes, I certainly am. I'm feeling. But no, and that is, yes, that's what late bloomers do. And I hope
Yes,
to be
that's
able
wonderful.
to do some more. I'm a slow writer, and I hope there's another novel in me. I'll be
So,
thinking of that.
yeah, so tell us about Lizzie. Like so you wanted to get in her head. She's in prison. She's confined to solitude.
Yes.
Um, is the book two questions? So one question is she in prison for the whole book, or does she get out and we see her out and about? And then tell us a little bit about what she's like as a person. What do you admire about her, for example?
So the first half of the book is her in prison. And in fact, I initially conceived of this and wrote a long short story. And I submitted it to my writing group, and they said, you need to make this into a novel because there's so much more that's going on at that time. And so Lizzie is imprisoned, accused of murdering her baby, but she insists that she's innocent. And during the process, she keeps a journal, and so she talks about her past to try to keep it alive because she's afraid she's going to lose her memory. So she is educated, unlike many young Irish girls at that time. She's 18 when she is imprisoned. And the year is 1848, by the way. And so she begins to have dreams, nightmares that actually reveal little pieces of what happened the night she gave birth, that she murdered her baby. And she remembers a corpse dangling over her. And she remembers her mother calling her a whore. But when she remembered smothering her child, remembered it vividly, she knew that she was guilty and she tried to commit suicide. And so when she's released, which is the second part of the book, she goes to live with her brother and sister-in-law. And this is all in Philadelphia, in a particular area of Philadelphia called Neumensing, where a lot of Irish lived, and there were Black people who lived there as well as other places. But she's broken. She's convinced she's a murderer. And her brother really says, you can't be a murderer. I can't believe this. So he sets about trying to figure out what happened. And when the secret is revealed, it's shocking. And of course, I won't reveal it.
No, we don't want to
You
tell
have
them
to
the
read
whole
the book.
story. They have
Right.
to read the
You have to
book.
read the book.
So
And that,
what is Lizzie like as a person? What do you
okay.
like about her?
So Lizzie is different from the other girls when she was growing up. The other girls basically played with dolls, excuse me, wanted to get married, didn't much care for school. Lizzie knew that she said, I never want to get married, probably because her mother was such an awful person. And so she was interested in reading, educating herself. So she was different from the other
Hmm.
girls. And so that's interesting. It shows a strength to not try to navigate her own way against, what everybody else was wanted for her,
Yeah.
including her mother. The other thing is Lizzie was a sensitive person. And here's the tricky part. She became very close to a young Black woman her age, and they became very good friends. And they were involved in the abolitionist movement and all of this stuff. But in reality, um, Blacks and Irish in my readings did not form friendships for the most part. So
Mm.
how could I make her the kind of person who would do that? I didn't want her to be Miss Goody Two Shoes. Oh, I want to save the downtrodden and all this. So I tried to have her learn from her life experience to get this sensitivity. And for example, the thing that really immerses her in this other family and girl is she's running away from the neighborhood bully. It's beautiful. Neighborhood bully who wants to do physical things to her. And she basically runs into a woman who lives a few blocks away, who is Black, and who just grabs her and takes her into the house. And what Lizzie discovers, because her background has been, kind of restricted, and she lived around a lot of prejudiced people. I mean, it's just the way it
It
was.
was. Yeah.
And she sees that this woman is much warmer and more welcoming and even more educated than her own mother. She's the antithesis of her mother. And so she
Mm.
becomes close. So she's having a relationship with somebody, and she is in a sense surprised because she had heard all these things about Blacks, and here is this woman. So there were a couple of things that happened that opened her up to what other people were going through. And so
Yeah, yeah.
that
So
is,
she sounds brave too,
yes,
that
yeah,
she's willing to buck the system. So, um, it sounds like you're also, like me, lifting social issues,
yeah.
lifting societal issues as you are, writing this book. Is there any, so, the imprisonment, the crazy way that, the solitude, being willing to befriend somebody of another race, which was totally not done, self-educated. Was there any other issues that you, as you wrote this book, you were trying to bring to the fore?
Right. Well, when I started, you're right. I wanted to focus on the imprisonment, the isolation, and the unfair way that women, especially poor women, were treated. And some things never change, right?
Exactly.
But as I was looking at what was happening at the time, there were race riots, there were sectarian riots. Between Protestants and Catholics, they were killing each other. Um, there was the whole abolitionist movement, the Quakers, the good and the bad. I mean, there was just so much going on that I wanted to focus on those issues because what was going on then, it kind of it is the roots of what's going on now. And we say, oh, we're not like that anymore. But this is it. And our history reveals so much about ourselves. And it's just like some things never change. And
Yeah.
so I really wanted to show that part of society. And there were other things as well. I mean, there as it turns out, an attempted abortion. Actually, as it turns out, when she was raped and impregnated, and she just doesn't think that she can do it anymore. And so it was a real character. Everyone around her, except for her family, are real. Charles Dickens, who visited her, visit the prison. I mean, there were famous people, including
That you
famous
wove that you
abolitionists.
wove into the story.
Oh yes, I mean,
Oh, this sounds
still
fascinating.
is Underground Railroad um, station master, I guess. And he's not one. He was in Philadelphia, and he's not one who's remembered when they think of all famous abolitionists. Yes, Lucretia Mott was also Philadelphia. So, and she was in it. She's in it too. But William Still was so interesting because he wrote about all of the people that he saved, he helped to escape. And there were hundreds and hundreds, and he kept a journal. Nobody did this. So we've learned so much. There were all these nameless people who, can't trace their history back. He would question them. He would get their names. He would do their descriptions, take this journal, and he would hide it. I think it was like at night in a crypt in a cemetery somewhere, because if it was discovered, it would be destroyed. So many interesting
Yeah, so
details.
many interesting things. It's
Yeah,
interesting too that you and I have another thing in common besides being um, very senior citizens, as we
right.
both are. That in True Grace, it's so similar. The racism, the misogyny, the even though it's 1924, not in the 1800s, then here we are in 2024, so 2025. Yes, some things
Yes,
change and some things don't. So are you working on anything new?
I wish I was. I have ideas running around in my head, and I
Yeah.
have to just pick something and really work on it. But I know it's going to be historical fiction because I just fell in love with the
Fell in
genre
love.
and the
Yes.
research. I'm like a research junkie. Um, I that was
Your book sounds beautifully researched. Oh my goodness, you've gotten me. I absolutely have to read this.
oh
You've
good. I'm
got
so
me
excited.
so ready to read your book. And I hope she's gotten you all ready to read her book. So, tell us a little bit about, we just have a few more minutes left, but if you could tell us about a book that had, or an author that had a really big impact on who you are as a writer.
I think this is before I was writing, and I just read and I liked things. Anne Tyler, I started to read her books. And what I found so masterful about her was the fact that her characters were quirky. And normally I don't go for that. I want
Mm.
real people, real romance. But what was so good about what she did is that she um, revealed, didn't explain, but revealed the reasons why these people became who they were. They unresolved traumas, a father who left them, a child who died, dinner at the homesick restaurant, the accidental tourist. I mean, they were just wonderful.
They were
And
wonderful
Elizabeth
books.
Strout is the other one
Say
who
the game again, Elizabeth.
Elizabeth Strout, who wrote Olive Kitteridge, which
Mm,
is just
yes.
a genius book, which shows that you can create a character, a complex character, without telling anything. You are showing her
Showing it all.
interacting. just a genius. And so those are two books that
Those
really
are
make me
two
I
excellent,
think about
excellent.
it.
And is there anything you've read recently that you could recommend to the audience?
Okay, so
Like one book, maybe.
right. Well, okay, so this is interesting. I was introduced to an author named Claire Keegan, Keegon, an Irish writer born in the 1960s. She wrote these two short pieces of fiction, almost like a novella and a very long
Mm,
short story, um, which showed up as, two of the best New York Times works of fiction. One is called Foster, and one is called, oh gosh, Small Things Like These. And they are revelatory in character. There is not one spare word. She tells a
mm.
complete story. She can do it in 35 pages, and you are just drawn to it. And I think they're making a movie of small things like these. So
Oh,
somebody else
wow.
liked it.
Yeah, evidently.
Right.
Those are wonderful recommendations. So now we have everybody wanting to meet you. They all want
Oh,
to follow you. They want to know where they can get your books and how can they find out more about you and what you're doing. So could you share some of that with us?
okay. So my website is called Natalie Writes, as in Natalie Writes, all one word.com. So I'm easy to find. There's a lot of information about um, my, about the book and about other things that I've written as well. The book Locked in Silence is on Amazon and other sources as well. So it's always nice for people to read it and react if they have a reaction, hopefully good. I am on Facebook and I am on Instagram, easily found. Um, and my email address, I don't know if you want me to give that. I'm
Do
happy to
you?
have people contact me, is nat.dyen, nat.dyen at gmail.com. Because I find that that's how people very often get in touch with me. So I figured I'd share that too.
That's
What my
perfect.
personal life,
No, listen, that is
with
perfect. We
me.
know people, we want people to find you and talk to you and see what's going on and buy your books and write reviews. You people know, you know how important writing reviews are. So if you love Natalie's book, you need to write her a glowing review because we
Or,
so love.
right. Or you can just say, I really liked it,
Yep, that's all you
five
got. You're
stars.
right. It doesn't even have to be long. It could just be love it.
Exactly. I try to encourage people, but it's still
We
a review.
try. And when you do get in touch with Natalie, please tell her that you met her on What Are You Reading? What Are You Writing? Thank you, everybody. See you in a week. And be sure to help Natalie celebrate her book baby's first birthday. Take care, everybody. Bye bye.